Hey, Jamie.
No,
Alright,
you are.
welcome everybody, calling the meeting to order at 3:02. Is there anything you asked Tara's on that? Right, so we are good. All right. I'm gonna make one addition for item 2.3 for the agenda, which is that Lori Vasquez is gonna be joining us for the AI item 7.04. So she'll be official participant in that discussion. With that, changes, can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Kathy and Danielle, thank you so much. I assume that's all, no problems. Okay. There are no items to be taken out of order, but I'm just pausing to ask the whole team, takes a village, to watch our time together. So we have two pretty big discussion items. 7.04, artificial intelligence and academic integrity. There's a goal of the 3:45 start time. That's like our agenda item and Lori is faculty, so like I don't feel as anxious about being on time for the guests. But we are starting the other one at 4:15. So it's a team effort to have enough time for all of our items. So thank you. I did hear that we do have a public comment, and so I'm going to ask Tara to time that for us. All right, so thank you.
Good afternoon. Just so you know, this is the first public comment I've ever made at the Senate in many, many years. And I'm hoping I'm gonna be quick, Tara, so, yell at me or whatever. This is really concerning, sort of the budget crisis we're in and some of the approaches that we made. I want to preface this with, our department and my faculty are great. I mean, we have risen to the occasion. We're doing everything we can to meet the requirements. So we're not angry and we're not resentful, but we are challenged. Just for some of you who may not have been around, I've been here since 1973. We've had a budget crisis probably every 2, 3, 4 years since then. And if you go back in the history, you will see all that. So there's really nothing new about a budget crisis. There is something new about this one. We're coming out of COVID, where we're working really hard to get our students back on campus. In the fall of 20, our department wrote our own COVID protocol, and we brought over 400 students a semester back onto campus during that time. We took a hit, but we are building back. And we've been slowly growing back, and we've been becoming more efficient, adding a few classes here and there. Now we have a 20% cut in our classes. This is the first time we've had a budget crisis in which instruction is the only area on campus being reduced. Every other budget crisis, College Planning Council and all of the areas on campus have had to cut and had to restrict. This is the only time instruction is the only place we've gone for cuts. And we are also the only place where we actually make money for the campus. So it seems very oxymoronic for us that we're the only ones that are cutting, but we also are the only ones that can grow. Many of us have made great attempts to come back from the COVID era, and now it's almost like it didn't matter. Efficiency and productivity are all well and good unless we shrink to a small college. Then it is not productive or efficient, it is careless. Why are we talking about empty classrooms and possibly tearing down buildings or renting them out when we were just coming out of the worst pandemic since 1918? And certainly the only one we have experienced in modern times. How can we get students back to our campus where they learn in an efficient and productive way if we're slicing and dicing our classes? And why are we not marketing our college at college fairs in California and beyond like we used to, and also in other countries? Why are we not working to get students here instead of working to send them elsewhere? And I understand what Maria's gone through. I understand the stress, but I do not understand the campus approach as a whole to our budget. And I'm very unhappy that the faculty have not been more engaged in the entire budget crisis discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. All right, so our next item is to approve the minutes. I did manage to complete 2 sets. It was intense. And I do want to publicly thank for the 124 minutes, Katie, Danielle, and Michelle Paddock, who shared notes after her presentation. And Stephanie, I did get yours, but she's late, but they're always great. And then for the 2 14 minutes, Tara, Cornelia, and Danielle and Elizabeth. I want to say again, it is pretty fun to see the different voices and the details people pick. So that gives me some pleasure in the challenge of making the minutes. So I want you to know that. I also want to address the question from our last meeting about getting an administrative assistant. And I just want to reiterate, given the current budget situation, should not ask for that. Also, a halftime person is unusual in hourly, and so we're making this work for now. Now that Rita Boss has joined the superintendent president's office, we might be able to get a little support there, so I will be following up to check what additional help we can get. But I just wanted you to know I'm grateful, and there are some small rewards to the experience. I also need to say that all errors in the minutes are mine, so if anybody sees any of those, let me know before we call to approve these minutes, putting both together unless people have corrections in each page. Do I have a motion to approve the minute? Ben was the first and Danielle, thank you. So Ben moved, Danielle second. All in favor, I'll just say any abstentions or any no's.
Abstention.
Jamie, one abstention. Okay, so passed unanimously, except Jamie is here for Elizabeth, which I forgot to mention. No, Jamie's subbing for Elizabeth today. Okay, thanks, everybody. Oh, yeah, so the next step is the volunteers for today. I keep thinking I'll do this in advance, but I don't. So I need somebody to do relatively easy, I think, from 6:01 to 7:03. Those are the information items, and the early, well, 7:01, 2, and 3 might be a little complicated depending. You can make your choice, but I need somebody to cover those. Stephanie, thank you.
I'll do
Okay,
one of those, whichever Stephanie does want to do.
there's more coming, so she's doing those.
Okay, oh, she'll do both of those.
Well, it's like a set. It's from 6:01 to
Okay.
7:03. It's the,
Okay,
yeah. So I'll volunteer. Are you up for the AI one?
yes.
Okay, typing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
I'm taking notes on the whole meeting. I'll just pass to you.
Beautiful. So, Jamie, I'm putting you down, especially for 4 and 5. And then I need one more volunteer for, the scheduling item.
I'm gonna take double flex though. for this.
Okay, a second volunteer. Stephanie, you don't want to do it the whole time.
I take notes the whole
You
time,
do.
like Jamie, so.
Well, all right then. That's glorious. Thank you. Okay, great. All right, so my report. Oh, I'm sorry, you guys. I forgot to move just sat here the first time. Hold on. So, we went to minutes. All right, and, so Timmy is here and, I don't know if there's, Timmy, you'll turn on your mic. Tara's my eyes too, which is always, if we don't see you, just turn your mic and out, I think. Okay, great. Okay, so I have a really short report. The first one is that I want to publicly and joyfully applaud for Melissa, our Hayward Award. I hope everybody saw the announcement from Erica with a truly lovely picture at the top. And then on the faculty, I followed up with more details and just for people to get to know, oh my gosh, all the things that she's done. It's kind of amazing to read that letter. Okay, and then tell me your last name again, Sophia, and are you like, what's your position on the
I'm Sophia Stavins and I'm the news editor on the channels.
Stavins news editor? Wonderful.
Yeah.
And let's pass these around. This is like why, there's so many reasons I love young people, but here's one of them. The channel's goal this year is to help students engage with the election, and there's a QR code. So we are asked to share these with the people in our lives.
Yeah, we're trying to get the whole community involved, so administration, students, anybody. We're making a video that we're gonna publish to our newspaper of everyone's responses. So the QR code is gonna lead you to a Google form where it asks you how the upcoming presidential election is gonna affect your life or the people around you. And then we ask you to come in at a time that you select to have a recorded response to add to our video. So if you could share it with your students or just your community, anybody around you, we would really appreciate it.
So-
this is something we're looking for.
outside of City College even,
Yeah, just the
Wow.
community. in general.
everyone. Let's see if my kid will. How do I spell your last name?
It's STAVINS.
And it's news reporter, that's it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. How can we get more of these?
We have a bunch in our newsroom, so I'm not sure if you know where, I could grab them or,
Why don't you just bring them next time too?
yeah,
But
totally.
in the meantime, they're, yeah, you could also email it.
Yeah, I could do
Yeah.
that as well, I could email a copy to you.
Or like, is it on your, probably on the channels?
I don't know if we put a digital copy, but we've just been handing out a bunch in eighties and everywhere. Yeah.
Thank
If we
you.
do, if one of us does get a electronic copy of it, we can just make a Canvas page.
Yeah.
Commons and everyone can put it on the Canvas show.
That'd be great.
Are you emailing this out to students also?
Yes, we are. I have to talk to my editor in chief. I'm not sure if he's done it yet, but I will get in contact with him and we're trying to get this as well known as possible. So if we haven't already, we'll definitely email out a copy of it. And then I'm gonna get one to Jordan as well,
Oh,
so that
good.
hopefully he can make it more well.
That's awesome.
Thank you guys.
Good job. That's so cool. So, there's two other items that are in here in my kind of sloppy way of just having access and the meeting. I like stuff in writing, so I'm not gonna do it for my report except to highlight, it's a discussion item, but I just want the Senate to hear that, we have been working really hard to be more engaged with all of these different planning processes. And I'm really grateful to everybody. There's been an incredible amount of work. Our FA liaison and president, astonishes me with the range and complexity and clear lack of sleep that must be in her life, all the things that she's doing. So I am excited. The agenda items that we have on this agenda give us an opportunity to really engage with these things, and I am really appreciative for Dr. Villagomez for this next item. And near the end, it's going to be really productive. So I'm going to come back to these if we want them. I didn't get to finish. I'm going to say who's in all the work groups, and it just is too much labor. So I'm done again. Okay. So I will be making it bigger, Maria, if you would like to start talking. For your-
Am I on?
You are on.
Okay, officially.
You are officially
So, yeah, today's report is brief, but important, I think. Not that all the other ones aren't, but so just to let you know that we do continue to engage in enrollment management strategy. For many reasons, the big one, of course, is the budget deficit, but also just because it's a good practice for us and it's a fiscally responsible practice for us to engage in, right? And just to quickly summarize and highlight that we do continue to experience both enrollment and FTES decline. It has been steadily, both of them have been steadily declining for the past 10 years. And so it's challenging, right, to call that out and to need to deal with that today. And so for that reason, I believe that we must continue to engage in improved scheduling practices for our current and future students, including, of course, successful course completion improvements, retention rates, et cetera, and aligning our size of the schedule to actual enrollment trends. As you know, just, well, actually, for those of you who don't know, because those of you who know, we've been very repetitive about this, I think, coming out of the Strategic Enrollment Management Committee, is that our Strategic Enrollment Management Plan has a targeted productivity of 16. Well, if you scroll down a little bit more, just there, Kim, so that everyone can see the chart, we have not been at 16 productivity in the past 10 years. It shows 9 years here, but it's also true for year 10. Separate chart that I developed. And so this is just kind of to put things in perspective, right? As we implement our strategic enrollment management plan, it is important that we continue to put efforts into becoming more productive. Maybe not reach 16 right away, but maybe not even in the next year or two, but to at least make sure that we're going in the right direction. One of the things, some of the scheduling principles that are guiding the FTEF allocations for fall are the following that are listed there. Students first, right? Creating a schedule based on what students actually need based on enrollment trends and FTES trends, and right sizing that, if you will, wherever possible. Aligning the program with the course offerings with program maps and pathways, remaining fiscally responsible, staying within the time blocks so as to maximize the number of classes students can take and to reduce scheduling conflicts for students is really, really important wherever possible. I know that, that doesn't always fit nicely and neatly. And also continue to offering a diverse offerings of modalities to make sure that we can also cater to those students who choose and prefer and learn best in either a hybrid format or in-person format. And I know that there are challenges with those in-person classes as well. There continues to be. The other main point that I wanted to share with you today is that we've begun the discussion about the development of the 25-26 academic calendar, which starts with summer of 2025. The Strategic Enrollment Management Committee will oversee these conversations. Specifically, a work group coming from the Strategic Enrollment Management Committee will be coming up with options and making recommendations to the SEN committee. A proposal of that calendar will come to the Senate as a first and second reading sometime in April. And subsequently, it will be, of course, sent to the board for approval. The timeline for that level of approval is May, maybe even June, depending on how, the conversations go. There has been some consideration or some talk about perhaps going back to 2 reg cycles rather than 1. It doesn't seem, from what I gathered from the SEN committee members, that's possible just because of timing right now. And so we might not necessarily look at that specific option until maybe summer of 2026, should folks continue to want to explore that, going back to that format. But for summer of 2025, it looks like we'll remain with one reg cycle. Again, not to mean that certain departments can't offer sequential courses in the same way that you did last summer and will probably do this coming summer. And then just a quick reminder about our upcoming brown bag series conversations. The last one last week was, I think, very, very productive. I felt that we had a very good conversation, and I look forward to continue to having those conversations with the faculty. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Paloma will let me know that she doesn't have a report for this time. So here we are for the liaison. And we'll try to make it bigger while you guys highlight anything. I'll just we were so pressed for time last time we didn't do it. So want to say anything, Stephanie, or just have us read it? Reading's great. Okay. All right. So we're looking at AP committee, guided pathways. Okay. Wonderful. Okay. Great. Thank you. IB and Trisha, anything you wanted to voice, or shall I just scroll through?
I would say just, reading it, but it was really interesting, the results of the survey, the campus climate survey. So take a look at that, and, that's what I would say.
Thank you. And I put it in our agenda too, as an information item to remind us that it exists. And CPC is going to be talking about it. So we'll decide what we want to talk about here. So thank you so much. Okay, great. And as always, thank you for these details about the discussion we did start to have. Okay, wonderful. Okay, and Katie, anything?
Well, I just have very brief notes. I mean, the safety committee, because I didn't mention it last time, is no longer facilities and safety. It is now campus safety. And their main recent meeting was about just, those things that you can see. PNR has been doing three things, one being looking at equipment resource requests, although we've been told there probably will be no money for equipment resource requests to be funded this coming year. We have been trying to solve some issues around rooms which had been allocated to departments previously, and then something has happened so that those rooms have disappeared for their use. So we've been looking at that. And then we've been talking about the implication of the new vision for this year of the facilities master plan. Those have been main topics.
Thank you.
And then ITC has been focused on AI and changes pertaining to AI. I guess Lori will be talking more about that later at our meeting. And then we've been going through resource requests for information technology and kind of getting into what the prices would be for this year's resource requests. We did determine that we in PNR and ITC will be also ranking non-credit requests.
I'm gonna put that too, just so. Or not. Actually, you could add that one. Can you add that to the report just to confirm? Okay. Okay, so Tara, the next two items are yours.
They are mine.
Come on, I'll swing.
So the first item is really a reminder that I am hoping you all can share with your areas and your divisions, and that has to do with courses having approval to be offered as a hybrid starting in the fall of 2024. And we now have well over 1,000 courses that have some kind of distance ed approval at the moment. But the majority of those courses only have emergency approval. And so we've been honoring folks' ability to teach them in any of the flavors offered online, which include hybrid. But the emergency waiver really was not intended to cover hybrid. So CAC worked really hard last spring and we developed a brand new distance ed addendum that captures all of the various modalities, and there are many of them now, which makes our work, how should we say, enthusiastically entertaining. So CAC has been holding a number of drop-in sessions for folks to come and see the new distance ed addendum, to get help on how to address the new questions. We have some specific questions about hybrid as a modality to help shape and inform your course design. We also have new questions on fully online courses with in-person assessments. Those are all now part of the new distance ed addendum. And so what we are asking folks to do is that they launch a course mod to include an updated distance ed addendum by May 31st. However, it doesn't have to be approved by CAC by May 31st in order for you to continue scheduling a hybrid even this summer and in the next academic year. It'll take CAC a while to review that flurry of proposals. We're only one committee, but you will have lots and lots of support. So we have a number of resources for folks to use if they want to try it out on their own. But as always, please encourage your areas and your divisions to reach out to their CAC rep or to reach out to me directly. I schedule meetings with people all the time. So I'm happy to help. So let's just make sure you get a course mod in the works by May 31st and you will be good. Okay, so that's my first area to cover. The second item is item 6.02. And that is the kind of glorious and also enthusiastically fun announcement to make that we are about to put out the call for our next academic senate president. And I will always, really stress and encourage people to consider running for academic senate president. You will become the voice of your faculty, and it really is both a hard job, but also an incredibly rewarding job. So I will be sending out that email after today's meeting. And what you will see is that our call for the candidates is roughly about 2 weeks. It will start today and it will end on March 13th, as you can see there on the attached PDF. Our election subcommittee, which consists of myself, Elizabeth Chisholm, and Danielle Swantek, we will then, as nominations come in, we will post them to a public Google Doc along with the candidate statement, so folks can see it in real time. You do have to contact me in order to get yourself put on that list. It is not an edible. Yeah, editable, I don't know, it's late in the day.
Edible.
Thank you. That's something else.
Edible either.
That's something else. I might need one of those. No, not really. So only I can add to that list just to ensure that we don't have folks suddenly finding themselves running full of they didn't intend to run. Then, once the call for nomination closes, by 4 PM on March 13th, your election committee will put together the ballot. It will be a Google ballot again, and it will be open for all full-time faculty to vote. And that election period will run from March 14th until about 4 PM on March 21st. Later that night, on March 21st, we will announce the new academic senate president. So in the email, I will include all of the specifics of the position and the commitments that folks will be making when they nominate someone or nominate themselves. So please be on the lookout for that email, and we will all find out before we leave for spring break who the next academic senate president is. Folks often wonder too, when we'll have senator elections, and those will be after spring break.
I don't know how things work. Can I ask a question?
You're Elizabeth today, yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Oh, for information question, yes.
How will you be, what's the term, the
Past
past president
Yeah,
for next year?
yes.
Okay.
And has graciously agreed to do that.
That's the deal. And actually, it's pretty glorious to be past president. Last time, I really enjoyed that year.
Like being a
Very chill.
grandparent.
Yeah, well, not quite that.
Like the Zen monk on the mountain.
I appreciate the different symbols. Okay, I just linked the report that Tricia so beautifully outlined in her report as well. It was important, and I'll be hearing CBC will be talking about it. I didn't have time to change this, but hot off the presses, and I will edit this in here, but it's not happening until June 3rd. So forget about it, everybody. Dean's gonna send an email. He wanted to let me know before this meeting because, you know, we're all here, so I'm grateful for him. But there's some technical glitchy things. It will happen on June 3rd. And once they turn it on, it's totally easy to find. There's like these 3 dots more, you click on it, there's the phone. And so the only issue will be if you have a computer with no audio. They will get you audio if you want to ask. So find that out sooner. All right. But that's, I think personally, I'm kind of delighted. I mean, I'm sorry that they're having technical glitches, but I think it's nice that it'll be in June. Give us a little more space on that. Okay. So, this is one of those things where, you know, there's so much going on. What are we looking for?
Sorry, the exact date.
June 3rd.
Okay.
Well, that's what's planned. And again, Dean will send an email, but you never know. So this, you know, I have trouble getting these agendas done as early as I'd like, so, you know, I do them all weekend. And because of that, I have time to be pretty up to date on what's going on. But some of these things, there's so much going on every day that they're not always that up to date. So over the weekend, I decided that we could just let PNR share what they want to on it. And then I am going to, I think I will attach to this item because you guys know me, I'm pretty obsessed with just trying to, and Tara is like that too. So like together, we're really insane to try to just document and connect to everything. So I am gonna work on that. I'll get off this and hand off to you 1 second, Katie. I'm gonna work on this list because I just wanna know who's going with everybody on this thing. So I got the Google invites and when they are, and I will put in the faculty, and Bill and I have been put on all the invites, whether we can attend or not, and just so we can track and make sure every work group has a faculty member there. They're not looking for a lot of people, because I don't know exactly why. I'm gonna have the first one on March 5th, so I'm looking forward to seeing what the process is like. So I'm gonna be adding, so these are the academic affairs groups, and I need to put their names in, like, oh no, here they are. So this is the one I'm going to, the first one. No, this one, yeah, March 5th. So I'm looking forward to joining you, Kathy, and being very quiet as you guys talk about all of this, but to see what the process is like. And there is a spreadsheet linked to our, agenda item that has, the groups. But this kind of reading doesn't work great for me, so I need to see it in another
And our
format.
meeting is at 8 in the morning. Which,
So,
theater, although I have not received an invitation.
okay, so that's what we need to check. So I think I have the power to just put you in them. So I'm gonna be doing that later.
So I love that they have my name and then PNR added her, and it's like, really?
For some reason, Eileen ended up in that one.
Yeah,
So, it's a lot. So, so PNR picked these on February 13, and the not confirmed just means that we didn't hear back, but we asked people to tell us if they didn't want to be on it. So no one did that. So I'm assuming these all want to, so I'll be following up on this. And then Bill and I are down here to just kind of check. So if you want to tell your people in your areas, can you please RSVP? So if it's a no, we will see that. And ideally, they will suggest somebody, or we'll ask you guys as the senator. We want to make sure that every division is in there. So did you guys do any more on the people stuff at PNR? Okay.
No.
So Bill and I are on that. And Alexandra's been working really hard. I mean, it's a lot to sort, but we're getting there as a team. Okay, so then I just added these details on here of some of the background on what the facilities master plan is focusing on. It's pretty general and generic in this language. So, however, this phrase, maximize functional space, has multiple meanings, and we'll have a lot more information by our next meeting. We will have been to these groups. Okay, so I'm gonna turn it over to Katie and Jamie / Elizabeth, because you're also a PNR.
Danielle.
And Danielle, of course, right,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
I mean, I don't have that much to add, except to say that Bill Dinklage has observed a number of facilities master plans in the past, as certainly has Kathy and Jamie and Danielle and many of us. And in the past, it's been a bit of a rubber stamp. I mean, we went through every building, we talked about decay of certain buildings, which were most in need of money and renovation. We talked about in the past with the facilities master plan, an idea of prospective bond projects for the buildings. But in building, which is words after a conversation with Brian Fonstock, this is a very different process this year. And I think I would say the main message is it's really important for everybody here to make sure that their divisions are represented in these conversations, because the message is that we can't afford to continue to run some of these buildings. We can't afford the utilities, we can't afford the maintenance. And so there's a strong desire to identify buildings that are not being utilized enough. Or, utilize, it's not a matter of if you're not there 5 days a week or 6 or 7 days a week, but if you're not really using your building, it is a potential, I don't know, I don't want to use the word target, but it is possible that your building could be either raised or it could be rented out to a college like Antioch or for something else. And that your program would need to be transferred to another building that you would be sharing with other departments that have demonstrated underutilization of your building. And, it's really quite a major initiative. And it is really very, very important that we all get involved because we recognize that, you know, we're in the middle of the budget crisis and everybody needs to do their part to try to close the budget gaps. But it is important for everybody to be very clear about how their building is being used and whether you would like to raise your hand and say, please take my building. Is there any other?
I think
Comment
that's
by
called
colleagues.
gallows humor, is that the
I
type of?
think we were concerned, one of the concerns expressed was part of this message was we offer classes from like 8 to 5, which is not a student-centered schedule because students tend to like to take them between 9 and 2. And for a lot of us that serve on committees, committee meetings are at 3. So being able to teach late in the day is not always an option. And this gets to what Maria is trying to do, where if we are following Brian's direction and offering classes at 8, but students don't want to take them at 8, and so you cancel those classes, we are in danger of shrinking the college below a medium-sized college, because what Brian is talking about doesn't seem to jive with what you are trying to do. And we also expressed alarm that this is sort of happening without a large conversation campus-wide about the budget, long-term strategic fixes, and discussion of using the reserves to help ride out this post-pandemic, because we have over $30 million in reserves. We have $20 million of Mackenzie Scott money at the foundation. The Aspen Prize money from 2014 has never been spent. There's $400,000 just sitting over at the foundation. And COVID money, $5 million in COVID money, that we actually have a lot of cash that can ride this out in the short term, and tearing down buildings seems like a really drastic decision in the face of like a once in a century pandemic. And so this all seems to be barreling forward at a really rapid pace without anyone but Brian making these decisions. And faculty have not been, like, at this point involving us in these work groups, that's too late for faculty to be involved in this. And so PNR feels like we should participate in these meetings, but we did not agree with this idea at all. So.
Yeah, Chris, or Jamie?
I mean, there's a misconnect for me in the increase in person classes, and we're not gonna have rooms to put them in. So I just wanna put that out there. That seems counter. Either you want in-person classes increased and there's space and we're saving space to make that happen because that's gonna be the need, or you're gonna sell the classes in the space and have more online offerings. I don't, the two, to me, there's a misconnect.
One other idea that was brought up at the PNR is the fact that this is described as a facilities master plan, which is generally a big project, right? An overarching project where you're getting utilization for the entire campus physically, right? But not with an end goal in mind. This is a very narrowly focused idea that's done in a very short period of time with one specific goal. And you may get information that would let you identify a building, but it won't be of any use to anyone. It's a general facilities master plan. So I don't know why it's called that.
I should add the
Wait, let me make
I'm sorry.
another point. You know what? I don't really have the words to express like what I said when I heard that there was talk of demolishing a building to save money, because I would assume, I mean, I've never had a need to demolish a building, but a building of the size of one of our classrooms, I assume you'd have to go through the coastal commission, you'd have to do an environmental effects, impact. I assume it would cost upwards of $10 million, and then you have a hole in the ground that you'd have to do something with, so we don't have this gaping wound on our campus to save, I don't know, $100,000 of upkeep costs a year, but it'd be 50 years down the road before we start to see savings. The idea of demolishing a building is
Right.
it's not even frightening, it's nonsensical to me. I mean, it's
Makes sense.
I'm gonna just jump in here. This is hearsay. It's an important phone conversation that our chair of PNR had to connect with VP Farnstock, and I think that was really valuable. But I did choose, I mean, anybody watching, and they'll hear it in our oral report, but I want to say on the record that nothing's been decided yet. I will add that keeping up a building, oh, thank you, Tricia, I'll be right with you. Keeping up a building costs more than that often, especially one of the things the plan's looking at is how vulnerable some buildings are, like some are in this like really decayed state, and then others are more just the need made. And so, but I also want to say that I share sort of concerns, and I'm really looking forward to these small group meetings. And I am happy that Katie and Josh Ramirez are serving on this larger group with me. And I will say, when we had I think it's fair to say a freak out a couple weeks ago, and I shared concerns at EC and at Dean's Plus. I communicated that level of concern viscerally. I mean, I was literally, because it is confusing and terrifying. So I just want to say I hear that, but I am trusting now. It's being surfaced, and we're going to continue to talk about it. So I'm both saying I hear you, but I'm also saying there's a lot of steps to still come. There's a lot of information we don't have.
Can
I think, Tricia, I want to do that.
I add one?
Yes.
For you. The other part to keep in mind, so people who end up on these work groups, is when Brian generated data about our classroom usage, it was grossly inaccurate. So he produced a spreadsheet that said the West Campus Center in fall of 2019, before the pandemic, that only 2 classrooms had ever been used. And that's just not true. And he was unwilling to sort of accept the fact that his data was really inaccurate. So I think
it's from Fusion or something. It's some
Even so-
horrible software. I'm just saying.
even so, all he said was this is what the data that was generated.
We'll
So,
be sure to mention that.
so when you're in
Yeah.
these meetings, he may be producing data that may be horrifically inaccurate. And the schedules are still live online, so we can go back fall of 2019 and see what classrooms are being used. So we need to be on alert when we participate in these things, because bad data leads to bad decisions.
Yeah, I have a follow-up to that after Tricia and after Stephanie.
Wonderful.
Oh, that's okay. Go ahead. You can continue. I'll wait. If it's a follow-up.
Well, I just have a question. The data usage for classroom efficiencies, is that only taking into account or other like professional development things that we do with our student that also uses space? Like mentoring or professional development training, like bringing grad students to campus, is that not part of it? Because like, I know like a lot of programs, they do a lot of mentoring one-on-one with students, that really needs classroom space. Tutoring,
We do.
yeah, and I know there are some dedicated space for tutoring, but specifically like programmatic, like professional development for our budding majors, right? And that's like a big part. I know at least in the sciences, we use a lot of our classroom space to offer those kinds of guest speakers or seminar series, and that would never be reflected on a schedule, but it's definitely like many hours of our week in the EPS or the biological science building is used for those type of student services as well.
Well,
That's an excellent
yeah,
point.
so they are the consultants are going, building to building. They are interviewing people. They are trying to assess usage. So certainly what you're describing would come up under that. The 2 very quick points I wanted to make are, we are seeing in PNR a bit of a pattern of classrooms which had been utilized one way previously suddenly, I don't want to say in the dark of night, but without consultation, changes are being made where the departments are not being involved. And I just bring that up to say it may be part of a pattern of the bad data that you're talking about, that there's not an accurate list or schedule of rooms on campus. And so that's why we're seeing these things happening where suddenly departments are like, what happened to my classroom? The second thing I wanted to say is, yes, part of this concern is from, after Bill Dinklage's conversation with Brian, but I will say, and I think you can verify this, Kim, in meetings, the point has been made, faculty want to teach between, 10 and 2 only, and we can't afford as a campus to allow, basically faculty to do that. We can't afford it because it just means, that our buildings are being run empty. And that, changes need to be made. If faculty want to do that, they're not going to be allowed to do that anymore.
Again, we should get the exact reasons behind it. Part of it is the expense per square foot to maintain,
Right.
cleaning,
Which is a
maintaining.
real thing.
Right, and then the second one is also, the state has, I think, truly terrible parameters to whether or not your buildings are eligible for state funding for maintenance and repair. So there's certain usage targets. So that's another reason that's another fiscal pressure. I do think the standards are woefully out of date, but that is another thing that they think about for this. Yes, Tricia, thank you.
Oh, yeah. So my question, so the faculty voice through these discussions and work groups is through PNR? Is that where, see, because non-credit or Wake Center, Shot Center, we don't currently have anybody on PNR. So I'm just wondering, how can I get my constituencies information or input into Corolla's on there? So Corolla is very responsive, but what else, how else can we get a voice?
Tricia, I can answer that. The concept of a faculty voice is not central to this process. So PNR at this point is not considered a source for that. So I called up the spreadsheet now. So where is Wake and Shot? So okay, so here you go. So if you see, are there any non-credit faculty on this list? This is column E.
I know almost everybody, and those names don't look familiar.
All
I mean,
right.
I mean, for non-credit faculty, of course.
Okay, so if you can check the time of this meeting and identify somebody, that's how it's happening. We're having our leadership identify people who we know have the knowledge. So that is for group, so column E here. I've got my
And there should be somebody from both Wake and Shot there.
So where's,
Corolla.
yeah, and I do believe on the student services side, they might have more. And so that will be important feedback, but I'm just checking, where is the Wake Shot one? I'm really bad at
I
this
think it's
stuff.
a center.
It's with the library.
Yeah,
which
so it's
group is
group
that?
4.
Thank
It's
you.
at 8 AM on March 14th.
Okay, so maybe lots of people would be free then, I don't know.
So
So if you wanna email me and Bill for the name, I'll confirm that. And thank you for asking.
do you have any idea what they're actually gonna do? 'Cause that's 55 minutes. Like, what are you doing?
No, as I said, I'm looking forward on the 5th to experiencing it live. So I don't know. There is a survey we're supposed to fill out in advance.
I filled
Which
it out.
I have not looked at yet, but okay,
It's,
is it fairly short? Okay. So,
But I think the main message, honestly, without, panicking people, is that it's very, I know how busy everyone is. It's very important to let your divisions know that this is something to make time for. You don't want to not get involved and then have, something happen that you really strongly disagree with. It's important to have your voice heard.
so Roosevelt's had her hand for, yeah.
Yeah, I had to switch hands this morning. But I've been real good about not jumping in there because I just have one quick question. Because I'm trying to wrap my head around this like everyone else. 30 million in reserve, 20 million McKinsey Scott money, 5 million COVID money. And you said something else after that.
The $400,000 from the Aspen plan has never been spent.
So you're telling me we have over $55 million and we want to upgrade facilities?
Again, you guys, I think we have to be careful with that last phrase. Do we want to raise buildings? I think that's a, you
We
know,
want to change.
we're looking at
Maybe
utilization
rent
for
out.
sure. So, yes, those numbers are correct.
Thank you.
All right, and I think D,
Yeah, Deanna, oh, I'm sorry, so D, Cornelia, and Timmy.
Okay, just point of clarification, I see group one CTE, does that include ECE?
Should. Probably.
yeah, sure.
Okay. Because we are in like a bungalow that's being used for storage.
You what?
We're like in a bungalow that's being used for storage.
That's true, you are. Okay, so
So we need to,
make sure, yeah, that,
part of that comes.
okay, so,
So are you on one of those work groups?
there.
Is
Pardon?
he in one of those groups?
Maybe it's CTE, maybe?
Well, you know, it's
But it's
happening
not
now.
specifically stated.
So you guys, this is Katie's point.
Okay.
I can't do all this. So I've given you the list of when these things meet. And this spreadsheet tells us who's in it. I am gonna try to spend a little time with that on Thursday. That tomorrow? No, it won't be Thursday. Maybe.
I'll just join group one if I can.
So group one, okay, so 8 AM on, that's next week. Okay, so I'm just gonna make a note here. Where? All right.
Kim, do we have access to that report? Yes.
It's in your
Yes,
agenda.
that's linked.
It's-
This is linked to my report, and I wasn't sure where I was gonna put it, but there's a hot link in my report, which is, you know, item
We
whatever.
know the location of
Did you say?
They're all on Zoom.
all in Zoom.
Yeah. And and the spreadsheet's linked to the discussion item that lists the people. And you can see that it's very minimal. So again, we've heard of slightly mixed messages. We want them small. And then Brian said, oh, I thought there'd be more people. So we're just finding our way. So I'm gonna add more people who want to go. It's on Zoom, right? I mean, it's not like you need a room.
We have many hands already raised.
So I have Cornelia and then Timmy, and then who wants, somebody want to get on a list after that? Or
Christy and Kathy.
School of Modern Language is group number 2, is that correct?
I don't know. I mean, this stuff is like, my dyslexia gets super triggered and stuff. I don't know. Can anybody help with that question? Which other group?
Go to your report.
Do you guys have labs or general classrooms?
We have-
Included there.
That's all.
I don't think so. I mean, all divisions aren't really.
Oh,
named.
yeah, it's
named,
C,
right?
it is
Oh, there
C.
it is, C.
It's right C.
Group, but it's not called C. This is actually
I think
group
it's
two.
two.
Group two, so.
Happy
Okay,
to.
and we're not, so group two. Okay, yes, there's group two. So I don't know. So what do we have in here? So there is no School of Modern Languages there's Marit is in that group.
Money, yeah.
Yeah, so she could, Hmm? Right, so
Okay.
she covers that division. Would you like to get it?
Please.
All right, so that time works for you?
Well,
Time doesn't work, you're screwed.
March 12th at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, right.
put it in, it doesn't matter.
Does it work? You sure?
So. Sorry.
Okay.
That's salty.
All right, who was next?
No, I'm in
Cornelia
the group, I'm fine.
Cornelia.
No, let's figure out what it's all about first.
Just a really quick question. So on this room utilization, we have seen a report last fall, which was incorrect. I believe there was some kind of different report at the facilities committee. There was, as far as I saw that, problems with this one as well. Is anybody working on reliable data of room use? Do we know that this is in the works? And would this data be available before these meetings?
We have no idea what's happening.
You know that's a rhetorical question, girl.
I'm not.
Well,
That's not rhetorical.
if I had it, I would have linked it to the site.
We don't, but
know.
it's maybe in the works. Do we know if it's in the works? I know we don't have one yet.
I know it has been mentioned at the large group. that we're
It
concerned
has
about
definitely
accuracy
been
of the
mentioned
data.
many times.
And we were told we will try to get more accurate data. That's all I know.
We have a timeline for
No,
that.
we do not.
I'm getting anxious about our timeline in this room.
Okay, so-
No, but your point is made.
Can I request at the next Senate meeting, each group gets to report to the Senate? A brief report.
I do have a pretty full agenda, but yes, so brief report at next Senate. I think that makes sense. Yes. But I'll run it by Siri, but I think they'll say yes. Okay, so Timmy's been waiting and we really do need to wrap up on this. Yes, Timmy.
Just quick question. Someone said to get involved. Is the best way to get involved as far as like for me to share this information with my departments is by going to the meetings that you just showed? Is that the best way to say, hey, I want my voice heard?
Yes, and not everybody, there's some sort of limit that I don't think we've reached yet. So if you can look at the group that's your area, and if you're willing to go or get somebody else from your division to go, you email me and Bill. And then I start adding people until I'm told that I can't. That's the process. Thank you.
Timmy.
So this is this is like the start of this process, would you say, or we're far down the line?
Excellent question.
It began in January.
It's fairly accelerated. They are waiting to hopefully get information from the educational vision plan as well, because that vision for our future and the kind of programs we want to offer and the space we need should be involved. There is a goal to have a draft of this by May. So it's soon. It supports the bond. The board is doing an initial survey on community support of a bond measure. So, we'll see. So it's now basically, these meetings, go then or forever hold your peace. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
any hands that I've forgotten?
I just have one quick final thing to say that I've been thinking about. I mean, this is a facilities master plan with a predetermined outcome in mind. And it could very well be that it's completely predetermined. And there is already a building that has been marked to be sold or demolished, and this is all for show. I just want to throw that out there. That is entirely possible.
That's why we all get to speak our opinions. Okay, thank you. All right, so we are watching our time. We have 16 minutes for the remaining items. So Jamie, really quick.
Sure. So the math department has been struggling with this particular issue of having in-person exams for our online courses. This is something we used to do for all of our online courses before COVID. During COVID, we could not do it. And related to the later discussion about AI, math teachers have been dealing with problems with AI for like a decade now. And we are very cognizant of the fact that any math problem can be solved with all of the intermediate steps put in by your phone in 2 seconds. And when our exams were online during COVID, cheating was approximately 30 to 50% of all exams. So we have been trying to get back to online exams for our in-person classes. We have struggles with getting that on the scheduling structure in a way that follows ed code, but also doesn't make the schedule too hard to read for the students. And we really want to have a push for a testing center on campus to make this easy for faculty, to make it easy for students. It could be used for makeup exams and not just for the math department, across the entire campus for all departments. So this is just, we've been doing a lot of work on this in the math department with a little group of people. This is a call for a Senate work group for anyone, any departments or divisions that want to be involved in this. Doesn't have to be senators, it can be people from your divisions, any departments that might be interested, please join this work group. And I suppose they should contact you, Kim, or Elizabeth. Elizabeth directly, Elizabeth Chisholm. I might be on the committee, but Elizabeth will be running the work.
Does anybody know now if they have the bandwidth or know somebody who's like, oh yeah?
I mean, there's some social science professors that'll be interested.
So could you follow up for them on that? Wonderful. Thank you.
Been trying to do this.
So this is-
That's 15 years, Jamie.
This is the official ad hoc work group.
And
birth.
also Trish wanted to get involved in that.
Yeah, we've had some, Trisha. Yeah, we've had some. Trisha, you mean?
Yes, but we need to check. I don't know. Sorry. Yeah, definitely. We've been talking about testing centers, but I'm not, I need to look more at what other colleges are doing if GED is part of their testing centers, because we know Ventura, other colleges kind of have this all set up, so.
All right, so in the interest of time, this is in our agenda. I am just highlighting that this is the schedule, it's Monday. And we had to limit involvement to 18 to 20 people for our team. So your steering members and CPC faculty helped identify group people for each of the meetings. This is a reminder of Tara, Jamie and I are the ones writing this plan. The institutional effectiveness plan will be going through CPC and it will come to Senate at that time as well. But if you want to just see who's at these meetings, you can look at that in your leisure. This has been on our agenda for a while. First meeting is Monday, April 17th. We kind of finish a draft of the plan and it'll be coming through all of our groups. All right, so we really have barely 15 minutes to start this conversation, but that's all right, because we're gonna get a lot of help from ITC. So Lori, I did say you were at the meeting for this. You are welcome to stay there or come to the table, of course. And is this handout?
going to introduce it?
Huh? I'm gonna introduce it. I'm just giving you the chance to move if you feel like, is this your handout?
No, I brought those in.
Thank you. All right.
I hope you feel that way after you read it.
Huh? Oh. That's hilarious. Not reading it now. Okay. I mean, the moment. Okay, so the introduction is, basically, this came more from administration and the FRC, but it's a faculty item. It is time for a shared guideline or policy, but how we're gonna handle dealing with AI and academic integrity. It's a bear, but it's complicated and we cannot treat it as a given that this is cheating because the detector said it was. That's what we're stuck with because the technology is so complicated and they always say it may not be AI. So I meant to email you this to tell you to do homework because like we don't often have homework and I just forgot. It's a tough weekend. So you probably didn't do it, right? I mean, I remember I used to read the agenda like in the morning and sometimes get to it. So this is the summary of the handout, which is that AI detective tools are not reliable. Indeed, those with money can buy AI scrubbing tools, just like make enough changes so that it won't show up anymore. So it becomes an equity issue as well. So the situation we are now, I happen to be in the English division and I know my faculty really want to hang on to that detection tool. We are working on a policy that will not automatically say it's plagiarism, you know, that it's a place to begin a conversation. It's not something you immediately turn in. We are grateful to Dr. Villa-Gomez. She found the money for to pay through June 30th, an additional $2,300 or something, turned in and had it for free for a while. And then, you know, they did a lot of work and they thought, hey, we can charge people for this. I am hoping, and we can bring this as an action item in the future, but we don't have to do this moment because there's two different points here, which is really what we do with Turnitin or future detection software. But it's going to take us a while to figure that out. So in the short run, I think it's just easier to stay with Turnitin so people have something because they're already using it, but it's not my decision, but someone should decide that before the end of this semester. And then there's a commitment of sort of thinking in the future. This second item, which is to confirm that ITC, thank you, Lori, as their chair, is going to work on a draft policy instead of guidelines about how we'll treat the use of AI. And then this was information from conversations. Josh Ramirez, Rob Brown, and Lori came to steering, and we all kind of brainstormed based on their feedback and looking at Rob's handout and my experience. Rob came to the English department and shared more of these details. So this was a very rough outline of it, which is you've got to put something in your syllabus about how you see AI. You have to be clear on what counts as AI because a lot of tools kind of automatically go into AI in mild, moderate ways of just kind of rewriting individual sentences and things. This is also considered a best practice, that a report of it being AI generated is a starting place for conversation, not automatic proof of plagiarism. You can't just give them a 0 for a paper being flagged as AI, because the tools aren't strong enough for that. So we need to say, yes, we're gonna do something else. And then somewhere to recognize this equity point. I mean, it's probably, like a line about that. Somewhere it becomes a really, it was always true. We always have students have the resources to, hire a tutor or whatever to rewrite their papers. But now it's a lot cheaper and faster. Okay. So Lori, you think I left anything out?
No, you basically covered it.
Okay.
So the only thing I want to say to the Senate is that the chair of the instructional technology is a member of the district technology committee, is a member of the committee for online instruction, is a member of the curriculum committee, as a member of X, Y, and Z, I'm so involved as I can be for many reasons, and it stems from students with disabilities. And it's equity piece, but it expands, but also for the distance ed piece, we're talking about AI protection tools. For mostly face-to-face and some online classes, but I just finished a presentation for ITC, which I will be part of some chair in the Senate. But I've been priming ITC this spring, but I've attended a lot of AI webinars that have been put on by the Chancellor's Office, because you all should be aware that Vision 2030 is now with us, because we have a new chancellor. And part of Vision 2030 is looking at AI and its impact on education. And the Board of Governors has been receiving updates from consultants from across the country to give them a wide view and perspective of what AI means. AI has been around for actually quite a long time. Students are using it now. We're using it, we don't even know AI is in it. And part of what this conversation will allow us to do is Beth and I are working with being on the digital equity plan for the college, which will be merged into a larger planning documents. I think now's a good time to have the conversation, because even though we're talking about a specific AI detection tool, it's much broader than that. Putting a lens on discipline-specific needs as opposed to maybe one department or two departments at this point in time will need to be discussed, but this is a good starting place.
Can I ask Lori a question?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I'm noticing in the documentation here, there's an article, on the 9 best free AI detectors for teachers. So what legal position are we in if one of our teachers decides to use one of these free detectors? Where, are we okay with that?
We're not there yet, because a state academic senate is also having those conversations. There are 2 things happening right now. Maricosta College is now offering the first AI degree in the state of California, one of our fellow community colleges. State Academic Senate also came out with a rostrum article on AI and impact on education. So we're all asking these basic questions, and we're not there yet. That's part of what ITC is going to be working on.
But again, if some teacher wants.
Literally does it.
One of these, they can use it. It's free for teachers.
It's free until it costs. It's always free.
Oh, right, I get that, but I mean, if you guys in English wanted to try these, you could try them and there would be no negative consequences, right? I mean, we wouldn't be in trouble.
The
right,
issue
Maria?
is you cannot say it's definitely AI just because that detection tool said it was.
Right, I was just gonna add on that, we have to follow through, right? You have to check it out.
Right.
And of course, you must speak with the student.
Right.
That's part of our academic integrity policy already, that you have to speak with the student.
I think the closest analogy now is when you get this paper and you're like, this doesn't match anything else the student has written. But you can't say you plagiarized it because you can't find it on the internet. So you have to talk to them, and then you have to try to ascertain, are these seem like ideas that they actually possess? So it's very labor
subjective.
Well, it's labor intensive. So
I know that.
so just because they use the 9 best, that doesn't mean you get to just give it a 0 and be done. That's the issue.
No, the 9 best is for the instructor.
No, I know, but the instructor can't just put that in.
No, I get that, but
Okay.
even talking to a student, how are you really gonna detect? I mean, unless you have a lot of comparisons, and then all of them could have been done through AI, who in the hell knows?
I mean, what I do is very specific requirements in terms of sources. So if you're not using the sources, that's already 50%. And then the couple times where I know it's AI, because you can just tell, like, you can just tell. And so then I write, because it's mostly like these discussion boards, I'm like, this really sounds like it's AI. And then the next time it's not AI. So, you know, I can't make a case to academic integrity to report that, but I can try to police it on this other level. It doesn't help you guys, but.
Well, no, I'm just saying, sometimes in math, we just talk to students and they will just say, yes, I cheated on something.
Yeah, because they can't see the problem again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and sometimes students, the dishonesty required to use AI and hand something in is much different for them from the dishonesty of lying directly to your face as you were talking about it, and in a non-accusatory way, because you're saying, learning anything by doing this, that's the whole point of being here, right? And for math, we could just say, okay, well then do this problem that's just like this, and they can't. And for something that involves language, you can just say, well, expand on the ideas in this document. If they used AI to create it, they're not even gonna know what the ideas are. And they won't be able to do that either. So I would assume in that context, it'd be fairly easy to tell. They're not using it to polish up their language, they're using it to do the assignment, which means they'll have no idea what's in the actual document that you are showing to them.
And sometimes, I see you guys this, but I didn't copy and paste from the internet about Black women and ran it through AI, and it translated Black women into dark ladies.
Yeah.
And so I was like, nice racism, but also clearly not your work. So there's that too.
Right, so far, AI draws from whatever pops up, and a lot of it's really bad.
That's close too, like, we have to just be cognizant of the fact that for some students, they don't always understand that what they're doing is cheating. You know, because AI has been around for a long time, it's built into Microsoft Word, you know, they kind of treat it like autocorrect. So it's a learning opportunity for them. But also too, we have to make good use of, like, I always have low stake assignments from the beginning, so I get to know their voice, and there are ways that we can put up some safeguards.
So in the interest of time, I've highlighted number 2 here. So I think this is a goal to have something in place for summer. Rough, not all the other stuff you're talking about, Lori, about disciplines and all that stuff, but this very simple, it's a starting point for a conversation. It's not an automatic 0 that you get to submit on in pipeline. So are people, yes.
It's gonna be a recommendation or link to the C policy and also guidelines. So
Yeah.
I'm curious if, like, policy has to be done, but guidelines seems like a suggestion.
Correct. And that's what we're here for.
Okay,
You know,
I like strong suggestions.
the administration's worried about this one because if you put on them, you turn in the 0, a student gets to have, you know, they can take a lot of time with boards and stuff to sit down and prove stuff. So that's why I'm not sure about this one. This one might have to be a policy that you don't get to just submit it as a 0. Whether you're just ignore it, that'd probably be up to you, right? It's not like we're saying you have to follow up when you notice AI, but we're saying you don't get to give them a 0 on that assignment or paper solely because of the detection. So that's a decision I think we're gonna need to vote on. If it happens during my tenure, I've only got till May 10th. But I think it's our responsibility, so I'm gonna certainly attempt to have that happen. Lori?
So all of your Senate committees are recommended bodies to Senate. If you do with the heavy lifting that we will do as your committee.
Beautiful. So April 24th would be your last deadline for this. And thank you. Any last words?
You're terrible.
I'm on the way out. Any last?
Lame
words?
duck president.
That's right. Although that technically means you can't do anything. Instead, it's having me, what, be a pain in the neck. Okay. So, we're making pretty close. It's 4:16, so thank you. So some quick background. We have had an astonishing number of eloquent public comments during this year. And it's really been a beautiful thing. It freaked me out at various times, but it's really been awful that it's been necessary. But also, I just think a real testament to our passion, to our dedication, to our responsibility, to how much we care about serving our students and upholding our values. And this discussion from the business division, it might have been to have 4 different people involved in a comment to get it to 5 minutes. Beautiful thing, 6 minutes. It was wonderful and it was very detailed. So I've documented that. And so we agreed at that last meeting to have this agenda item. So here we are. And so Taryn and I attempted to capture what we were hearing from faculty and deans. And so we are all ready to learn more from the principles that Dr. Villagomez and the deans have been implementing. And so I got to have a meeting with Maria on Monday. She showed me some really wonderful tables. And I'm not great with tables, but I started to get them and I'm gonna get a review. So I think that that's the most important place to start, which is the tables. I did ask her for something. I shared this agenda item and I said, how would you rewrite it? I, of course, just finished it on Sunday and I wasn't gonna put either one of us through that. But I also think there are really different ways of wording things and perspectives, and it leads to a reality. So this was very spontaneous. So Maria, I'm kind of leaning more towards you doing the data and charts first. And then we'll try to share that at the end if we can, if you're okay with that, or we could put it up and not really talk about it quickly if you'd like it as a, do you have an opinion about it?
Either way is fine.
Okay, then I'm
Not
gonna,
a preference.
okay, then I'm gonna just let you do your thing. And I'd like you to come here if you're, no, that's not it. Hold on, sorry guys. Here it is. Yeah, so your amazing spreadsheet. So I'm just gonna clear out.
Okay.
Okay, are you comfortable just with that one? We can stand here too.
I think I'll manage. Do you want me to go over each one of the charts? How do you want me to do that? How much time do you want me to spend on that before we open it up for discussion,
I think
questions?
that it was really, so I saw myself as a guinea pig because I do know a lot about budget and I've been through a lot of this stuff as PNR chair, Senate president, et cetera, and it's still kind of hard for me. Like, if it makes sense to me, we're in good shape. So what's happening is this productivity number really does matter. So we are really far from 16, which still isn't really enough. Now, there's some nuance. People say, oh, well, we can make other money other ways, international students, et cetera, and we can. But 13 is low. And so I think it would help to look at these bar graphs because it shows data in a lot of different ways to understand. So I personally think that it would be really great to kind of just make these big. And I don't know if you, you made a great lesson for me on Monday and just sort of like do that again.
Can I ask a quick clarifying thing?
Yeah.
So that 16 number is also in part pertaining to the 35 students per course.
No, that would be 17.5.
That would be 17.5.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll try to call. I think it was Jamie and then Christy, but.
This actually
You know,
comes
that's-
from Christopher. Where does 16 come from? Why 16? I mean, I've heard 525.
Want to start, we can start there. Sure.
Probably should explain it to people.
Okay, so,
And that's FTES per FTEF.
correct, over at FTF. So the productivity target of 16 comes from our strategic enrollment management plan. that was approved in June of 2022. And it's a 3-year plan. And that was what the committee established as their productivity goal for the college to reach by the end of spring of 2026. So a year and a half from now. Currently, we are at 13.4 productivity, so kind of a ways away from 16. The state recommends for fiscal sustainability from that angle, a 17.5 productivity. Just to kind of give you a perspective of, where we are in comparison to the productivity target established by SEM and where we are in comparison to what the state recommends. And then the final thing I'll add is that the max is 20. But no one gets to 20. I don't know of any college that is at 20. There are departments that reach 20, right? But no college per se really ever meets 20, because what that would mean is that fill rates are at, it would mean two things. It would mean that fill rates are at 100% for every section, for every program, and it would mean that class caps are also at,
An average of.
not average, but actually at a very high
Right.
class cap, compared to other colleges.
Do you know what that high?
That's a good question,
Doesn't matter, but-
nobody ever goes there because
It's so
nobody ever
stupid,
reaches
so-
20, so.
Doesn't
but
matter.
something,
So-
it would have to be something like 40, 45 or something like that. Average.
So I do want to highlight, Jimmy, you mentioned the 525, so there's this kind of fairly rough draft plan that we approved. Because look, we need to look back, it's then approved abbreviated enrollment management plan from years past. Looked at 525 wish FTF, we probably need to tie back to that time, oh, okay. So at any rate, that's where that's coming from, and right, we talked, Cornelia, do you remember what year that was? Did we ever find out when we made that engagement with?
I sent it to you, was it 2017?
I don't know. Okay, yeah, so it'd be nice to get the background, the FA worked with, was it EVP Jarrell at that time?
Yeah.
And made a commitment to trying to get to this target, like just shared plan, and then it just, of course, he left and it left. So here we are, okay. So,
So
is
here,
that enough of that?
so here we are, so I came
Oh,
in,
sorry, Christie had a question.
I just wondered, have we ever been at 16, and if so, when was that? And
I
for
believe-
How long did we maintain?
I believe we have, but it's not been in the last decade.
And
So,
prior to that, was it maintained for, like? has it
I
been
have
in
to
the
look
last
into
10 decades?
I have to look into that data.
I think it
Um,
was back
but-
in 2008, 9, and 10, when we were overflowing and we remember the budget crisis.
Yeah.
No, this is 8, 9, and 10. That was the worst budget crisis we've had, and
Yeah,
that's when the recession happened and everybody came back to school.
and we over-enrolled.
And we
Which is
over,
massive.
we had almost 20,000 students
I
at that
had
point.
classes of 6.
But I can look into that very easy, so.
But it doesn't
That'd be
matter,
helpful.
it will never happen again.
Well, thank you, Kim.
Yeah, it was 15.9 or something in 2014.
It was 2017.
When we made that agreement, thank you. Okay, we probably should wear that in like that. Okay. Go.
May I proceed?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so, and you can ask questions, of course, at any time. I don't need to tell you that or remind you about that, but what you see here is 9-year enrollment trend. These are enrollments, not head count. These are actual students in seats, so to speak, okay? And so you can see that back in 2015, this is the total enrollment we had at the college level. Also, this is credit only. It does not speak to non-credit, okay?
There have been similar declines there.
Say that again.
There have been similar declines in non-credit.
You know, I have not focused on non-credit for obvious reasons, so I couldn't tell you.
Thank you.
I don't think, I think it's a continue to expand in terms of.
Well, I know Tricia has shared they were really hammered during COVID, of course. And then they have had a good rebound, so.
So that's enrollments there. What you see here is average class size. Also credit only over the last 9 years. You can see that we have declined a bit in terms of our average class size, which of course contributes to our productivity decline as well. No surprise there. Also, though, is average class caps, which is different, as you know, than average class size, has also declined compared to 9 years ago, which of course also contributes to the decline in productivity.
I'd love to pause you.
Okay,
Okay, so these two different ones, the one on the left is class size. That's like what we're filling to, right? Like how people's enrolling.
Yeah.
Right. So 23 is obviously pretty far from 33. And then you look at the class cap, that's literally what's in the core.
Right.
Not how many people enroll.
right.
So from fall, we weren't that far from a goal of 33, right, for an average class cap. In our core, we're that far from an average class cap. So it takes me a long time to absorb information like this, so I'm just asking if you guys needed to.
Thinking out loud.
For clarification, the class cap is when it says how many seats are available on the
That's
schedule
right.
of classes, correct?
Yes.
It
And that-
should, but this is coming from the course outline of record, which doesn't always match what's in the schedule.
And who sets the class?
CAC.
In the core, it's the instructor that develops, modifies the COR and approved by the curriculum committee.
Faculty set it through curriculum, so it's consistent for all sections of the same type of class.
Yes, it should be.
It is supposed to be.
And-
Maria's saying here too is that often like I have a class that's capped at 40 in the core, but I can teach it to 125. Right, so you can make those
You
kind
can
of
always-
adjustments.
So faculty get to determine if they want to go up,
Yes.
but they can't determine if they want.
They're
to
not
go down.
supposed to schedule lower,
No, not all the.
but it does happen.
I can't go up to 100 people.
No, that's what she's saying.
You
It's
can't
up to you.
physically, but you can if you wanted to.
No, but it would violate pedagogy, no, I cannot.
Well, in English, right,
Right,
everybody
I
else.
understand.
You're not understanding. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm understanding.
Yeah, you do.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk.
There's some classes that are kept at an artificially low cap until a certain point, so then a certain type of student can enroll and the remaining.
Yes,
So
Where does that
these
fall?
are classes that are offered in the schedule, and it's those average class caps or the COR averages.
so this one specifically here is coming from what's in the schedule.
What's in the schedule?
I also have the recent data coming from, pulling from the course outlines of record, and I have a breakdown of the various core caps based on, I distributed, and I can show you that after I go over this. This is from the schedule.
If we have multiple
Sections.
of the same course, there.
That will be reflected here. Yes, that's correct.
Artificially low caps are often raised once that's certain.
Yeah.
They're adjusted back to where they're supposed to be.
Exactly, so that was, my follow-up was, this data is taken after census.
Correct, including dual enrollment or CCAP sections.
Dual enrollments in here also?
It should be, yes, once, depending on when you run it, because, for example, as we speak right now, we are still in the process of making the class cap adjustments to CCAP dual enrollment classes from fall 2023. So yes, once that report is run, after that has been done or completed, it should be reflected in this report, for example, because it's coming from the schedule.
Do we have the same type of authority over dual enrollment caps as we do over?
We absolutely do, because the
So we
course
tell
outline of
us
record, yes.
How many students they can put in the class?
That's not
Well,
my experience.
That's not my experience either.
The course, those are two different questions, though. The first question is, do we get to say, establish what the max class cap is for a CCAP class? And the answer is yes, because we should adhere to the course outline of record as much as possible, right? Now, are there some classes, CCAP classes, where the high schools enroll beyond the cap? Is also true. That is true.
Under the cap?
Some are under enrolled, yes, below the cap as well.
Is it
Absolutely.
possible to see the data with dual enrollment, not?
Oh, absolutely. If we were to disaggregate that, yes, but this is institution-wide. Everything is possible when it comes to data.
But you'd like to see, well, how much dual enrollment might be affected. Beautiful question. So
But I mean, we don't pay for dual enrollment if the high school teachers are teaching it. Does that?
That is
not
correct.
go
It
on?
doesn't go factor, not 100% of them factor into our costs, into our FTE. However, I want to go back to what you're saying because that's not entirely true, what was just exchanged here. The class caps for CCAP sections are ultimately adjusted anyway. So they should be, this should be correctly reflecting the class caps for all sections, including dual enrollment
What
sections.
is CCAP? Yeah, I was gonna
Dual enrollment,
ask. Okay, that's just another term.
yes,
On the high school campus.
correct.
That's, yeah, that's a dual enrollment.
Yes.
term.
Right,
Right, when they come here.
So this is still accurate. This is
Right.
still accurate.
At the high school.
Correct.
This is only looking at the ones that are here.
No,
No, this is including the high school. I
Everything.
don't understand how it's still accurate.
because, well, I don't understand how you don't understand. I'm sorry, what is the question?
I would like to see the numbers without dual enrollment, because dual enrollment is not entirely in our control, because the high schools influence.
No, yes, it is.
That.
That's what I'm saying. It is because we go back and make those adjustments to the class caps to match the CORs.
The question's just, that it might be lowering our class size because like.
It might be lowering our class.
They're not lowering the class size. They're just,
by enrollment.
they just have lower, they just may not have 100% fill rate, like
Right.
many classes here.
Therefore, the average
Some
class size might be.
enrollment classes, I remember when I was chair, it'd be halfway through the semester and it would have a 0 people list.
Yeah,
So that's part of the problem that we're worried about, that 0 is going in the numerator and the 1 for the class is going in the denominator. So it's effectively skewing your averages lower. That's part of the idea that's.
And I'm also just trying to understand, what do we fully, entirely have control over, and what do we have partial control over, but the high schools district has some control over also. I'm just trying to understand.
sure.
So wouldn't those cancel out on the class average size and also class cap?
Yeah.
If it was,
Because it's only impacting the size, not the cap.
What?
Impacting the size, not the cap.
Well, sometimes the-
No, because you haven't changed the cap in the core, the size is enrollment.
I mean,
They're at
way
zero, it
to
hasn't
just
changed
do
the
data
cap.
size.
Well, if we are,
Average is
if
taken
we are
as 4.
trying to improve what we are doing here, it actually makes sense to not include high school classes because that's not what we are doing. This is not what we can influence. And also, I believe the funding model, the cost is totally different, right? I mean, we are trying here to balance here our class size, our efficiency with the funding that we are getting for a class and trying to figure out how much does it cost us to run a class,
Yes.
right? I'm totally for presenting the high school data, but I'm all for presenting it separately from what we are from the on-campus.
I am in total agreement, and this is not to suggest that this data is what's influencing the FTEF allocations, because we are excluding dual enrollment from when we are making those FTEF allocations for obvious reasons.
Right.
It doesn't cost us, so we should not, so we are doing what you are suggesting,
For allocations, but we would still love to see.
but it's still important to see, right? Just institution-wide, this is saying, if you take all the classes, all the sections offered by Santa Barbara City
Right.
College that are credit, this is what our average class cap is reflecting. And the main point, I think, of this chart is that it has declined.
Yes. However.
There's no doubt.
Right.
I want to see it without the high school classes.
Well,
I don't know.
And as I've said, we can absolutely disaggregate that.
Let's see what that was.
So I have another question, and I'm sorry I'm being stupid about this. I'm not trying to dispute that it's been going down, but I want to get to the reason why. So you're taking the classes from the schedule, but then when you're computing the caps for those courses, is that taken from the schedule or from the course?
You mean the other chart that I alluded to that I was gonna
No, this
speak to?
chart,
right?
average class cap.
This
I'm having a
is-
hard time understanding the difference between size and cap.
This is.
No, because the cap is
No, you guys
eaten from
are.
the schedule.
This is just being pulled from the schedule.
So what happens, and
And that-
Maria
and that's
mentioned
the
that,
core that's
time
there.
out, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What
There are
happens
some
is
sections
they
that don't match the core,
Yeah.
and that is a separate.
That's a whole other issue.
That's happening,
Yeah, yeah.
that we are trying to resolve, especially through our class software or new class software, because what we are doing is we asked the software to default the class cap to what is in the core.
Right, that
That's
makes
pulling
sense.
through Banner, because we're trying to make exactly the
Yeah.
correction.
Right. That's good.
I would love to see that, and like how much that would influence this as well. Which part taking the dual amount or?
No. The standardization.
Yeah.
Following what's set. If we followed what's set, would we get more close? It's not as different as people are saying, it's because there's got 35 class caps and they, there's 30.
One, a
So it's
few
not that
courses
big.
that don't reflect.
Yeah.
the-
I will also show
Not that
you a
many.
separate chart where I can show you the distribution of the various groups of class caps as per the course outline of record. And you'll see how many sections, generally speaking, are, let's say, below a 30 cap. Or how many of them are between 31 and 40, how many of them are between 41 and 50, and so on and so forth. I have that data too. Jess,
I didn't know if I wanted to hold it till later, or, like, were you gonna comment on it?
up to you.
Yeah. So I have like, I guess, a comment or an observation maybe, and then like a couple questions, but. So like the difference between these two is where the 15% is coming from?
No, this is not informing the FTEF allocations.
Okay,
What's informing the FTEF allocations are the FTES, which I'll get to in a second. Right here. And our enrollment trends for the past 3 years or so.
I guess, yeah, go ahead and do that part and then
Yeah, I'll go ahead and continue here with it. So up here, what we see is what you've already seen, which is the 9-year productivity trend. As you can see, over the past 9-10 years, I know it's also true for year 10. As I said, we have not been at a 16 productivity in a decade. And all that means is that according to the state formula, we have not been operating at a productivity level that is fiscally sustainable. That's all that means. And down here, what you'll see is a 9-year trend of FTEs. Now, this is important because this is what we receive apportionment for. Of course, except while we are in hold harmless, because we're getting apportionment for 12,000 FTEs, even if we only generated 1 FTEs for this year.
But we have about 11,000.
We have about 11,000 this year, so we're about 1,000 from what we are actually getting paid for. So this is, you can see that, of course, over the last 9, and it's also true for year 10, we have been steadily declining in FTES. So when the state no longer pays us for 12,000 FTEs, we are going to be paid for the average over the past 3 years, which is gonna be you can see somewhere where it will probably end up being.
So we need more FTEs.
So we always need more FTES,
But that,
always.
but what about the hold harmless whole issue?
What about it?
Well, I mean, that's why we've been told that we're not going after more enrollment because it doesn't make sense. We're not being paid for extra.
I don't know that anyone has said, I haven't said that we shouldn't go after more enrollment. I think that's always a good thing to have to generate more FTEs, which are generated by enrollment.
Open more sections.
That's different.
That's all right.
That's very different, beyond, the size of a schedule that could match the actual enrollment trends.
Can you explain to me why, I don't understand why we don't want to open more sections? Just from, because I work with students 100% every day and I'm sending them to CBC because they need classes and we don't have one.
So I can absolutely, share that. And for that, I'm going to pull up actually a different,
Okay.
but I'm not logged in. So how do I do this?
So, I think what,
Although,
But just like, I assume that I assume that there's a financial benefit to not opening classes, or we would be opening more, right?
especially now,
What?
because we are getting paid for 12,000 FTEs, even though, without having to generate them. So yes,
should be a good thing.
But that's gonna bite us in the butt next year.
You can't just turn enrollment on.
so I want to take one question at a time because it's very difficult for me when more than one person is speaking at the same time. So can you restate your question to make sure that I am addressing it?
I think I understood. You said right now we're getting paid for 12,000, so any that we open more at this point, we're just paying faculty to teach because we're already getting all the money. So it costs us.
That is in part true, but what's also informing that decision is the fact that we, in order for us to improve our productivity efforts, we have to build the size of a schedule that matches enrollment trends. And right now, the size of our schedule is larger. In fall of 23, the size of the schedule was larger as compared to the decline of enrollment. And so it wasn't matching. In fact, we surplused scheduled in fall 23, believe it or not. We surplus scheduled, and I know that because of the proportional difference between fall of 23 compared to fall of 22.
Okay, you have to show that chart.
I will.
Because so it's not worth, that other question, we've only got 15 minutes. I do think it's important to get this data soon, so, but follow up.
If we're always building to the trend and the trend is going down, we're always offering less and we will always be going down.
It will never grow.
Right.
I'm sorry, say that again.
If we are always building to the trend and the trend is always going down, we are always lowering our classes.
But see,
We
that's the
continue
key,
to always go
that's
down.
the key dilemma. We have not always scheduled to the declining trend. We have done the opposite. We have surplus scheduled.
I heard that, and I thought that everybody was making a concerted effort to adjust that for the spring. I'm not talking about the fall, I'm talking about the spring. And in the fall, I didn't turn students away, and in the spring, especially with the late start, lack of variety, we are turning students away. And so I understand building to the trend, but I also think we're missing, or could be, I could be wrong, missing building to the need and allowing us to have bottomed out and start to, and maybe that'll take a couple years. I also feel like a lot is being based on the 3 years of COVID, and we have that 1 year now where we're trying to get things re-rolling, but everybody's kind of in Fat City because they got paid for all that time. But that's starting to catch up and there are starting to be less jobs.
To make sure that we addressed the need that you're speaking to, the student need that we're speaking to for specific classes, we did designate a reserve of FTEF for those specific situations. Where if a department was experiencing real need to open up another section, they were encouraged to go to their dean, where then the dean and I would look at consider that criteria, the circumstances, and award additional FTEF for those specific circumstances. So we did do that. In fact, we allocated additional FTEF beyond what we had allocated in general for spring of 24. And we did the same thing in fall of 2023. How those TLUs, as you all know them and refer to them, I refer to it as FTEF. How those are distributed amongst the department is a conversation that needs to happen between the deans and the department chairs. I do not go into those granular conversations because I don't understand the programs in the way that the department chairs and the deans do. So yes, I agree, and we did do that.
I would say like,
Just has a question.
I don't know that. there's
And I do want to finish the charts because I think that's data that we need to fully see, and then I think we should continue discussion after the last question, but I just got to show all the charts, it's a whole picture here.
Yeah, you can-
Okay, so
I have just a quick one. Are international students part of this, or is this just?
they are because they're enrolled in credit classes.
Okay,
And this is
okay.
all credit.
Okay, so even though we don't get FTS from them,
Well, we do
well,
get
we get
FTEs.
money, but I thought it stays local. It's not for the state.
We do get apportionment, and we do
Okay,
get
we do.
FTEs
Okay,
for that.
all right, thank you.
So this next chart is a 9-year trend of total sections. So as you can see, obviously, through the class cancellation criteria over the last, I imagine, decade, the class schedule has shrunk. Enrollments have shrunk, FTEs have shrunk. The schedule has shrunk, so this just shows how it has shrunk.
So is the 15 and 16, is that COVID? The green and the, oh, sorry.
Here we go.
So.
The hover over the bars.
Oh, bars, yeah, okay.
That's,
That's the first
that's the
COVID,
first COVID.
and that's the second COVID,
This is the second,
and then, okay, and then spring's not in there.
and so on and so forth, correct.
Okay.
I did fall to.
And I want to remind you guys, in COVID, when we came back, we had smaller class gaps. So we had more sections but fewer students because we were trying to distance. So that's gonna really affect the numbers.
This next one is a 9-year fill rate trend or fill rate data. As you can see, we're pretty healthy when it comes to fill rates. However, so then someone could say, well, if we're doing great with fill rates, why are we not more productive?
Right.
Great question, and the answer to that is because it is relative to the class cap.
Yes, that makes sense.
Right? Because, absolutely. So, and so for those also who say, well, students don't have sections to enroll in. Well, we're not at 100% fill rate. There is some room there as well. And so that's where I rely on the deans who rely on the department chairs, who rely on departmental conversations to determine how you need to distribute the TLUs that you have. Maybe it means that all of our courses cannot be offered every semester. Maybe it means, based on fill rates for the year, that course ought to be put on an annual rotation. Ideally, it'd be great if we could offer it every semester, but is it one of those courses that really should be put on an annual rotation or biannual? So those are, there is room to align our schedule of offerings to contribute to productivity without impacting meeting the students' needs. There really is. Some departments are in a better position than others. I can appreciate that. In athletics, for example, we can't cancel a team. We just can't. Because that would mean program discontinuance for that team. So there are some departments that are better positioned to do this than others. And as a college, we need to rely on the highly productive departments and programs to be able to maintain those programs that cost us more, but that we value. for our college and for our students. And so, yes, a balance, a good balance.
Two things. One is part of the message that we should convey to our, let's say, chairs. Can you look at your courses and try to raise your course caps? Is that a part of like what we as faculty should be doing? Number one. and
I would
number-
hug you and kiss you if you did that. If
Okay.
you allow that.
And number, thank you, I'll.
I
take
would
that.
do that.
Okay, but, and then number two, you know, Danielle is a powerful advocate for this, you know, social sciences, as is Tara, because we do know that those courses are the work courses
Yep.
for rest of us who
Right.
just, there's no way that we can expand.
Yep.
So, you know, sometimes she'll say, well, why are we ever canceling a course? It's bringing in 40 students per course.
Yep.
And I mean, even though, of course, you know, our smaller course caps are valuable classes too, but I see her point. So why is that? Why aren't we just really trying to ask our oxen, social science oxen to like take up the harness and like, yes, they should not be getting cut, right?
And I am really happy that you asked that question because it gives me an opportunity to address that because it's come up in a couple of public comments. And I can tell you that Dr. Imhoff's division was the one that received the most additional FTEF for these reasons. But again, I only control the allocation. The distribution of those does not happen at my level. So I would encourage those faculty. My husband is a social scientist. When we were hired both at Napa 20 years ago, he was in the division that was the most productive division. I was in Spanish and ESL, some of the least productive divisions. So we always had these conversations at home. And so I understand exactly what the scenario is and the dilemma is. And I would encourage social science faculty to bring up these discussions when there is an opportunity for growth, because you have the largest caps. And I would be open to that. And in fact, we did designate additional FTE for that purpose.
Because that's not what's happening. I'm just.
And I'm not gonna throw anyone under the bus. I'm not
We're
going
not-
to speak to that, but
We're not, the communication is not happening. And the other thing,
you, Cornelia.
and I mean this very seriously, we are now going to be a teaching college on OEI.
right.
Social
Yes.
science should be allowed to offer a lot of online classes. And again, that is not the message that is being sent to us.
And I would.
And ethnic studies in particular, they're one of the few departments that offers an ethnic studies classes that are now required by the community colleges of California. This is a place for growth.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I want to welcome that conversation because I know how much we need those highly productive classes to be on the schedule.
Because what this is telling me is that we have too many programs that require solo classes.
Correct.
Period. Because how else do you end up with the 26, 23 average class cap?
Can I say
And so we need really.
I don't know if she answered that.
Thank you so much. I think this is all super important information. I wish we had had this discussion before. I also wish we had not this year intentionally over budgeted in the national student revenue. Because the FA went in August to the Finance and Audit Committee and said, yeah, are we over budgeting in the national revenue? And the answer was yes. And now we are hit in what, February, with a $2 million reduction. 1.7 million of that we already knew in the first week of the semester, before the adopted budget was made. They didn't do it. So now we are in a time crunch and in a money crunch. And my question is, we can use this all for the next semester. But we heard from Christy, don't just believe the accounting and finance department or the FA president. We heard from Chrissy, she's turning students away because we are now not having enough classes. We also see that we have declining enrollment, right? If we are turning students away now, we are accelerating this declining enrollment. These students will go away. And also, we have a college mission. We are not here to build reserves. I believe that in reserves in a time of need, and also a foundation which got $20 million, and we have $400,000 in Aspen Valley. In a time of need, we need to spend this money for students. And again, I did all that, what we wanted the department to do. I just want to let you know, in this spring 2024, our Finance 100 classes, which are urgently needed by students because it does fulfill a math requirement, and math, sorry, Jamie, is the biggest hurdle for our students. We have an almost 100% fill rate, even with the classes that are already open. Our FTES to FTEF at the moment is 19.7. Okay, I asked, again, I sent another email with all this data on Thursday to Maria and Michael and scheduling, and asked, please give me just one section of Finance 100 because we don't have it anymore. And my question is, are we in fact making this decision to turn students away? I have not received a response to my email from last Thursday. I just think that was why my department and our division was here, because we are turning students away. Is that what we are doing right now? Is that really what we want to do? And what is good for the institution? We can have all this discussion. We can make better decisions probably for next year. But the problem is, what are we doing this spring? The spring is not over. We still have 10 weeks and we still have students waiting. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. May I just say something really quick?
Yes, we are coming up against time, so we'll be.
It'll be 30 seconds or less, you can time me. Class size, it depends on the program. If we have a surfing class, how many students do you want in the water? How many surfboards can we handle and store, right? We have physical education classes. There's no way I'm gonna take 40 students, you know? So each department.
So we're given special dispensation.
Oh, okay, I see. I was just gonna say that we're all so unique within our departments.
Same
So
with
this-
theater.
My point
Theaters,
is to
music.
expand the divisions like social science that teach these large classes, because we're the ones that generate it. Thank you. Yeah, I'm fine.
So we're just gonna back to this, yeah.
And by the way, Maria, the county and finance department is just because we did raise our bill.
You did, yes, I owe you one.
So I or you're a drink. Or a drink. So, I think the overall issue here is offerings are small. We have a lot of small classes that we offer, so we're gonna be trying to look more at the choices of what we offer.
Yeah.
And I think a question that I wanted to ask, I don't have to answer it now because it's almost 5. Is the Senate interested in looking at departments by productivity? Not in a way to judge, criticize, or, oh, look how small you are, but to see who we are or not. You know, we've hesitated because it's like, oh, look how low the productivity is in marine diving, and this and that, in theater, in English. I'm in favor of the transparency, but it's not my call. And do people have a feeling about that before we go? That information you're interested in?
Yes.
I don't know that that's gonna help us.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm more interested in answering the question that we presented to Maria is how can we take these classes and divisions that can really be productive and help us and boost them?
Yeah.
To help the rest of us. I mean, there are
Right.
some of us that, we're never gonna have 50 students in a class, it's not
Right.
safe. So how can we help them help us?
Yeah.
I think that's the most important.
And I do want to add, in the past, we've had these 40-person sections with 25 people.
Yes,
Like 10 open and they only get
Yeah,
25
right.
percent, so that's part of what.
not,
That's happened in some areas. Yeah,
Not
so,
history.
that's been something to really, work on to not continue that. I did hear this final question, if we can still offer any classes that open for week 8. We are in week 6 now, right? It's getting close, but I think that's something to ask again, but it's like it's probably
I'm
not
curious, so-
spring, huh?
I'm curious, like, I think I would understand better if I got to see everything.
You mean as far as the productivity level by
Yeah.
area?
Yeah.
So the
Because
other,
then I would be like, oh,
the other question is whether a smaller group would like to take a deep dive and bring back information, because I am kind of concerned about, I mean, we could really fill all of our agendas all trying to learn with what's left of the sentence.
One thing I think would be interesting would be to just look at the trend line, because, you know, I know there are courses, like having been on CAC and we've got, you know, 2+ reps on this body who are super involved in CAC. There are courses that have been reduced in terms of their class cap. And not to like, I personally don't think it's productive to like, you know, point fingers at any particular area. I am sure I'd be the first to have stones thrown. Either, but the point is that it would be interesting to see how course caps, what's the trend line on previous classes, which, you know, then were reduced in class cap size.
You mean like more granularity on the chart
Yeah.
that shows like which departments got.
Okay,
okay.
Hang on.
Yeah.
So CAC can do that for you. I can have Kaylee generate reports and we can talk about it at CAC. So let us manage our own data, then we can share that with Senate.
And most of us that went down during COVID have tried to, you know.
Right, but we're talking about caps in the core.
Yeah.
right?
I'm just talking about like a trend line, not, you know.
Right.
That's something that Kayleen can generate
Yeah.
fairly easily for us.
Just so you know, the report that I was trying to pull up, and for some reason, I'm trying to log in, but it knows that it's Kim. So it's not allowing me. But I actually have fresh information because I just worked on this report yesterday. And so generally speaking, we have about 2,100 course outlines of record.
That's correct.
Okay, just to put that in perspective, what I did is I wanted to know the distribution. I wanted to know what percentage of our CORs, of our total CORs have a cap of 30 or under. And it is about 60%.
Correct.
And then it goes into, and then it goes like this. Because then the next category is courses with 31 and 40, between 31 and 40, there's about 382. It's kind of frightening that I have those memories, that I remember those numbers. And then we have 50, it's 31 to 40, and then we have 41 to 50, which is about another 340 cores. And then we have 51 and higher, and that is about 150 or something like that. So the vast majority of our course outlines of record have a cap of 30 or under, which explains our productivity or unproductivity. I'm not making any suggestions about anything. I'm just stating that that is, of course, what's contributing to our low productivity.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for all these.
Thank
that
you.
work, and we'll continue with them.
Of course.
All right, we'll call it a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Adjourn. Katie and. Look at that, okay. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Kim, I've already shared that document with you. Kim.